Hello everyone! I am your teacher for today and you can call me Sir Cañada or Sir Leo. Today, I'm going to talk about community language learning or for short, the CLL. Learning a new language isn't just about memorizing grammar rules. It's how we connect and share ideas with other people. As future educators, we must care for our students' thinking and their feelings. That's why CLL is important. Community language learning, it was created by Charles Curran, and it treats language learning as a whole person process. It helps both the mind and emotions of the learners. In this video, we'll look at how CLL is, its main ideas, how it works in class, and why it's still useful today. Let's start on historical background and theoretical foundations. Community language learning is based on something called counseling learning approach of Charles A. Curran. Charles Curran is a psychologist and educator. And Curran noticed that learning a new language can feel scary, means that it can feel threatened. And many students, especially adults, are shy or afraid to make mistakes. To overcome this, teacher act as a counselor or guide, where the teacher listens, supports, and helps reduce the fear of the students. This method, the community language learning, is influenced by Carl Rogers' counseling style, which focuses on empathy and trust. So instead of being a strict lecturer, the teacher is a friendly helper who cares about both feelings and learning of the students. Now, what are the goals of community language learning? CLL has three big goals. First, to enable learners to communicate effectively in the new language. Means students are taught to use the language in real situations, not just memorize words or rules. They learn to speak, listen, and understand messages they actually need. Example, the teacher lets student whisper a Filipino or Cebuano sentence. Like, nag-enjoy ko sa among field trip. And the teacher gives the English version. I enjoyed our field trip. Then the student repeats it aloud. And now, the student has said something meaningful in English and practiced real communication. Second, to encourage students to take charge of their learning. What it really means. Students gradually decide what topics to talk about, make their own materials, and reflect on their progress. They stop waiting for the teacher to tell them everything and start becoming independent learners. Example, a group creates a short story in English about their weekend. They record it, listen back, and discuss what went well and what to improve. And this, it shows the students are making choices and checking their own learning instead of just following a worksheet. And the third goal of community language learning is to create a safe and supportive class where both thinking and feelings matter. What it really means? It means that students will only take risks in a new language if they feel safe. The teacher acts like a counselor, showing empathy and avoiding harsh correction. Students' feelings are respected as much as their ideas. See, for example, after a speaking activity, the teacher asks, "How did you feel during this?" Students share that they were nervous or excited. Then the teacher listens and reassures them. Because of this, next time, students feel braver about speaking. Moreover, CLL's 3 goals are about using language for real communication, helping students become independent, and creating a safe class that supports both minds and feelings. Now, let's move on the characteristics of the teaching-learning process. Community language learning uses 6K ideas called SARD or SAARRD. Here's what they mean. First is security. Students learn better when they don't feel embarrassed or threatened. In language learning, mistakes are normal, but harsh criticism or ridicule raises anxiety and blocks participation of your learners. Example, in your class, instead of saying, "That's wrong," a teacher can gently rephrase or model the correct form. So as a teacher, you need to build a supportive classroom or environment. You smile, give positive feedback, make a small group work so learners feel safe to try. Next, aggression or positive risk-taking. Aggression is not about being aggressive toward others. It means having the courage to push out and use the new language even when unsure. Or risk-taking is essential for fluency. See, for example, a learner volunteers to answer in English even if grammar isn't perfect. And that's good. That is a risk taker. A risk taker learner. That is why you as a teacher, you give tasks where mistakes are acceptable. You give role plays, paired talks. You praise the effort of your learners, not just correctness. So, students can dare to speak. Next, we have attention. Students need to focus on both meaning, what they want to say, and form, or how to say it correctly. If they focus only one, learning slows. Example, during a dialogue activity, students first talk freely. They talk the meaning, then reflect on verb tenses used. And that's the form. And it means you as a teacher, you must alternate between fluency activities or the free talk and accuracy activities or the grammar noticing. So attention is balance. Next is the reflection. Learners grow more when they pause to think about what they learn, how they feel, and why something was difficult or easy. And this connects language to self-awareness. Example, after a speaking task, students write or share how confident they feel and what words they discover. So you can use exit tickets, journals, or a quick sharing circles so learners process their experience and link feelings with progress. The other one is retention. Memory improves when language is used in meaningful contexts instead of isolated drills. Retention means the language sticks and can be retrieved automatically later. Example, students remember. Can I have? Students can remember better if they use it in a real life role play instead of only copying it on the board. The last one, discrimination. It is the gradual ability to distinguish differences and similarities in language forms and usage. Over time, learners develop the ability to notice subtle differences and similar words, sounds, or structures and to use them appropriately. This is key to accuracy and nuance. Example, learners distinguishing between borrow and lend, or between past simple and present perfect. So you can use comparison activities to sharpen this noticing skill. These ideas guide all activities in community language learning. Now, how does community language learning look in class? First, of course, the teacher and students will work together. Second, students may use their native language as a bridge to English or the target language. The third, vocabulary and grammar are taught based on immediate needs, not a fixed textbook order. Next, the teacher avoids harsh corrections. And lastly, students can reflect and evaluate themselves. And according to Richards and Rogers 2014, this approach builds trust and letting real communication grow naturally. And now, let's know what are the rules of a teacher and students in community language learning. First, the rules of a teacher. 1. Teacher starts as a counselor or facilitator, not a lecturer. Number 2, teacher gives support at first and helps only when needed. And 3, guides toward independence of the learners. And 4th, create a safe environment. And the classroom is shared, not teacher-centered or student-centered only, but a teacher-student-centered. And now, the rules of the students are active participants, say what they want to communicate, take responsibility step by step, and can make their own learning materials. Now, how to deal with students' feeling. You invite the students to comment on how they feel or after class activities. And you as a teacher, you will listen carefully and respond with empathy. Now, let's proceed to LaForge's 5 psychological stages of community language learning. Paul G. LaForge is an author and professor known for his work in the field of language learning, particularly community language learning. LaForge compared learning a new language to growing up. And learners go through 5 psychological stages, starting from being fully dependent on teacher to becoming independent speakers. First, the stage 1, or the birth stage, dependency. The learner's role here is like an infant, fully dependent on the teacher for words, translations, and guidance. And the affective crises are fear, anxiety, and insecurity about learning a new language. And the teacher's role is to provide constant support, reassurance, and creates a safe environment. Stage 2, self-assertion or early independence. Learner's role starts to use simple expressions, independence begins to show. And the affective crisis, embarrassment or fear of making mistakes. And the teacher's role is to encourage learners, praises effort, and reduces anxiety about errors. Stage 3, the separate existence stage. Learner understands directly in the target language, may resist uninvited help, affective crisis, frustration or resistance toward teacher intervention due to desire for autonomy. The teacher role is to respect learner independence and provides help only when asked. The fourth stage, adolescence stage. Learner role, they become more independent and self-reliant. They take initiative on their own learning. The affective crisis, identity struggle, balancing independence with occasional need for support. And the teacher role is act as a facilitator, allowing initiative but still available when needed. The last stage is independence or the maturity. The learner achieves refined command of the language and can function independently. And affective crisis could be self-doubt or pressure about working entirely on their own. And the teacher rule, they only affirms mastery, builds confidence, and encourages peer support or learners helping learners. Now, what are the sample activities in CLL? Typical CLL activities include first, circle and whisper. In this activity, students whisper a sentence in their own language to the teacher, and the teacher will translate it into the new language. Then the students will repeat it aloud. Second, story preparation. Groups create and tell stories in the target language. Third, you can do recording conversations. Students will record themselves speaking and listen later to improve. And fourth, reflection reports. Students can share how they felt about an activity or about the activity that they do inside your class. And you can also do a transcription and grammar focus, where students write down recorded conversations and study the grammar. So these activities is mixed language practice with feelings, cooperation, and steady improvement. And this time, let's have an example of practical application or classroom integration. In an elementary language arts classroom, community language can be adapted to suit young learners while still fostering security and cooperation. So let's have a mini lesson plan example. So our objective is students will be able to express simple sentences about personal experiences in English. And our materials are recorder, chart papers, and markers. And the procedure are first, students will sit in a circle, and each student whispers a sentence in Filipino or Cebuano. Example, nag-enjoy ko sa amuang field trip, or giganahan ko sa amuang pagkaon. And the teacher translates it into English. I enjoyed our field trip, and whispers it back. Then the student repeats the translation aloud for the class, and it is recorded. Then the class replays the recordings and writes them on chart paper for reflection and analysis. So this integration fosters a supportive environment, builds confidence, and combines speaking, listening, and writing skills while respecting students' feelings. In conclusion, the community language learning method highlights three essential aspects: its goals, which focus on building communication skills and learners' autonomy; its characteristics, which emphasize cooperation, affective support, and whole person learning; and its classroom activities, which integrate reflection, interaction, and gradual language practice. Together, these elements show that CLL is not only a language teaching approach, but also a means of fostering confidence, trust, and emotional growth. In today's classroom, including digital and multicultural context, community language learning remains relevant as it equips learners with both linguistic competence and personal development. And that's all, and thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something today.